Hey, before we get started with this next tutorial video, I wanted to take just a moment with a quick update. First, I want to apologize for the delay on this video. A couple of life situations, personal life stuff popped up and slowed down the process. In addition to, I got a new phone and it used a different video recording format than my old phone did, which is not compatible with YouTube. So I recorded this entire video and then couldn't get it uploaded. The easiest way that I found to get around that was to screen record the videos I had already recorded. So I just loaded the videos up on my computer and recorded them. So if the audio or anything is a little lesser quality than normal, I apologize. But that would be the reason, is I just literally recorded the recordings. So hopefully the next one will be of higher quality, but all the content is there. So without any further wait, let's jump into our new tutorial. Hey, welcome back. This is Richard with another Silhouette Studio tutorial. This time around, we're going to do some work in Silhouette Studio and some work in real life, if you will. This time I'm going to be using this design here that I created in order to make a t-shirt for a birthday gift. I'm going to be doing a combination of techniques for this shirt. The text is going to be a matte white HTV or heat transfer vinyl. And the colored image here in the middle, I debated doing a layered design, but since I have the ability to avoid that, I decided not to. Plus, it allowed me to do more with shading and not needing to buy quite so many colors. So this one I'm going to do a printed design using my Epson printer. So I figured I'd show you the process that got me to this design, and then go through the steps of the actual making of the shirt. So I'm going to skip some of the process just because this would be a very long video if we went through everything. But I'll show you kind of how we got from start to this end result, and then from here into the shirt as we get to that step. So if we move over here onto the sheet, we can take a peek at some of the steps that I took, and we'll actually go through very quickly the process here. So I started with this image here, which I made. A combination of some online references, some combinations of my friend's real car that this is based off of, and then a lot of work in Illustrator. I think I have his real photo. Yeah, his real one in Illustrator at the moment. I debated doing the real car versus a vector drawing and talked myself out of it. So that's the real car this project is based on. So this is the first image that I started with. This would be like if you were to get an image from Google, or if you got an Etsy thing, like a PNG image or something to that extent, or if you were to purchase from one of many websites that have images and things for sale. So usually what you would start with, if you started with an image like this, I'm kind of cheating because I designed this, so it's already an SVG. But assuming you don't have the business version or an SVG handy, and you're starting from an image, it would look something like this. You would have your cut lines on the outside, and the image that you want inside that your Silhouette Cameo would not know what to do with. So we would start from our image. We would do trace like we've done before, this little icon here, and choose our trace area. This being a black and white image, trace is very straightforward. There's very little that the software needs to really do because it's just looking for the contrast between white and black. Like we learned in our tracing video, I always bring the scale all the way down, which usually goes down to 4. That will get rid of some of the pixelation in the lines. There it goes. This has a lot of edit points, so it's a little slow since I'm also recording the video. It's pretty quick if I'm not recording, but my computer's pushing its RAM limit doing all of this at once. So that you can see it cleared it up quite a bit. And then we want to increase our threshold or decrease depending on your project. But since some of my lines are still missing some of the details, little lines like this I'm looking to make sure are filled in. You can bring it up or down depending on what you're needing. I'm thinking for this project, being that it's all black, it'll be really high 90%. If you obviously go too far, usually you'll start to lose some of the details. Stuff will blur together just a little bit. You can see some of it down here is getting pretty crowded. This design is a lot of fine details, but you'll see, like, especially in here where there's lots of stuff close together, and down in here the same, that we can space things a little more. If you're doing this in vinyl versus a colored image, you need to be a little more precise. But for the most part, this doesn't matter because I'm going to be printing it. But then we hit our trace. It takes it a second, again, because this has a lot of details and I'm recording the video. So if we moved our main deal over, you'll see it's done this with our car image, which I would then turn, in this case, to black to get our outlines. And that's how I got to this point here. I did go in, because no trace is perfect. It's quite good, but there are errors here and there, or things that just don't work great. So depending on the look you're going for and how much detail you want, you can see some of these little small bits and pieces. If you wanted to clean some of them up, or like I said, especially if you're going to be cutting something like this in vinyl, you wouldn't want it realistically to cut these tiny little specks, especially one like this. You can't even see any white through it. These, at least, there's color to them. But you can double click your image, or you can come over on the side here and choose this point edit option, and you'll see each one now has points associated. You can click and just delete. You can push a delete key on the keyboard there, and you'll see that little sliver piece went away. So if you wanted to clean up, like this piece here on the side, or maybe this one here, if some of this didn't appeal to you, or like this one here is just a line, there's actually no real data to that, you could go in and trace that just so it wouldn't slice a little sliver on your vinyl. So I did take a little bit of time, probably about 10 minutes, going over the whole design and doing small cleanups like that. Again, it didn't really matter because this will be printed, that these fine details will just be black lines. So more important if you will cut. So that got us to here. And from this point, I had decided for 100% certainty I'd be printing it. So I started adding color. I did this in my tracing video, but for those that didn't see it or don't want to watch it for some reason, I'll show you real quickly what I do on this. I did not finish this front wheel. That way I could show you the rest of the process. And you can see that I've got a little green scribble down here that I debated using. If we were to drag this over the green, you'll see that we can see through that front wheel. There's no color or nothing to it yet. It's just the white of the background. Same if we go over here, it goes gray. So there's no color yet to the front wheel. And this will show how I got to this effect. That all I'm doing is applying color to specific areas that I want it. So we can do this a couple ways. You can either do it manually. I usually use the little rounded drawing, the curved shape. And this one works as well, but this car has a lot of curves to it, so I've had better luck in this specific design with this tool. And you're just going to choose where you want color. And if I'm doing it similar to the one I did here, I've got a shadowed gray on this side of the tire and a kind of highlight gray on this side. So if you're going to replicate that same effect, you just draw out whatever area you want a color. You can be as precise or not as precise as you want. The nice thing is the points are all editable. If editable is a word. It sounds funny, but we're going with it. And then you can come in and make sure everything looks good. I already made my colors. If you wanted specific colors that aren't available in the drop-down menu here, again, we've talked about it before, but on the side here, you've got your palette, and from that you can make basically any color imaginable. I'm going to use my eyedrop tool because I've already used the color that I want to use. It's right here. So I'm going to use the eyedrop tool and select my gray color. Now you'll see that this blob that I drew is that same gray color. I will then take this. Like I said, that's why it doesn't matter how precise you are, because you can always move it. Or if maybe you have one point that went over your design and you can't get it to fit, you can always double click and correct it. All you're trying to do is cover all of the white. And then you can move it to the back using our send to back button here at the top. And now it's behind the black of the tire, giving us the same effect we see here. And when I'm adding color, personally, I find the red really distracting. So I'm going to select all of the design, go up here to our outline color, and just use this little, it looks like a diamond, but it's a little transparent. And that gets rid of all the red lines. So we can just see what we're working with. And I was playing and moving things around, so there's some white shown here and there. I moved this purple piece at one point, and so now things don't quite line up, but obviously you'd line it up properly in the first time, which I did, and then I moved it in preparation for this video. So the black is too high, the purple's too low, but the method and approach is all the same. And then same thing with this area here. You'll draw out your shape. I'm again going to use this one. You can just click on it. Sorry, I had it selected. And just quickly blob out the area. Perfect. Got around the little piece as well. And then same thing. You can do it through the drop down here. There's the eyedropper. Or especially if you're already making colors here, it's also on this screen. So you've got a couple of options. So we're going to do my eyedropper here. It's already open. Click this one. And then the exact same thing. We're going to go send it to the back for where I was going for a second. You'll see I put it behind, and it's got the little piece and the larger one. And again, if you were doing this as a cut, maybe delete the little piece just so there's not so much hassle when it comes to things like weeding. And then because he has white wall tires, we've got the white wall portion. And then I've got kind of a two-tone silver effect. And it's good to have a reference if you're doing a project like this. So I can always go back over and see that it's a chrome. You've got shadows because there's a recessed portion. And kind of get an idea of what effect you're going for. Because I've got lines to create kind of a vague shape, but no specific colors in mind. So we can pick our area. You can see there's that center cap portion. And there's no defined line. So we're going to kind of create it. And we can pick and choose where we want that to be based on our lighting. So it's a little bit of freedom and maybe playing around. Maybe try something, maybe you don't like it. I corrected it's not wrong, but I changed this rear color like 3 times, and I wasn't a huge fan of the way it turned out, and made some small tweaks. Being that this is more of an oval though, I'm going to switch off of this tool and use the ellipse tool here instead. Draw out our close shape to what we're going for. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect yet. We can manipulate as we need. And again, it's going to go behind the black. So we don't have to get it like lined up right on it. You can overlap just like this is perfect, because once you move it to the back, you can't see that edge anymore. So it'll look very clean and nice because all that color will be hidden. So the important parts are going to be wherever we choose to have our edges, because obviously there is no connection up here. So we're going to have a fine line where the two colors meet. So if you were going to have it maybe go off the inside of this black portion, or maybe you want it to meet up somewhere closer to the top of this, you want to pick and choose what looks right to you. Or maybe you don't like that there's a gap. You can always double click your design and bring your lines closer together. You can manipulate the angles. You can change the curve. Oops, I clicked the wrong blue one. You can manipulate your curves and angles depending on the effect or style you're looking for. And then it'd be easier to get more of an oval shape. Maybe that's what you're looking for. I'm going to undo, leave it as it was. It doesn't really matter. I'm not using this one in that I already completed the design. So we click on our oval. We pick where we want it to go. We want to go for a bigger one on this one, like it's catching more light. Let's go out to this part of the shadow. Maybe down to this part. And you'll see I'm starting to get outside of the black, which is not ideal, but we can manipulate that here in a second. Zoom back in so I can see. And I like the idea. I'm going to kind of do a hybrid of the two things I mentioned, because I like that it's coming off the inside of this one, but I don't like how it's going into this one. So I'm going to move this one down ever so slightly, just so it looks intentional. So I might do something like that, where it's off this point to this point. It'll look cleaner when we do the two different colors. And then over here, again, we've kind of gone outside of the circle. So if you put it into point edit mode, you can see the oval or the ellipse is just 4 points, which isn't enough to get rid of this. You start moving this inside to get it in far enough that this is in. Now you've gone way inside over here. So we want to, once you're in point edit mode and you get up to the line, you'll see this little icon appear, and you can click and it will add a new point. And you can just drag that inside. Again, it doesn't matter if it's a nice even curve, if it's ugly, sloppy, whatever, because it's all going to be hidden under the black. And same thing, I want to be careful over here that I'm behind the black, and it looks like it is just slightly, so we're good enough there. Again, I don't like that it crosses over just before the end of the white, so I might move this over like so. Again, just so it's clean and in the black area of the design. For the sake of learning, that looks pretty good. I don't like this white spot right here, so maybe I'd take just a second just to make sure I get around it, and we'll make that part all the kind of brighter chrome color. So we select our area. Again, I've already got the color. I've used it a few times. It's here. It's on the exhaust. It's on the head of the engine. So I would take my little, oops, wrong tool. I want the palette for the eyedropper tool and select our color here. Drop it to the back. And now I've got the chrome portion. And here's where I make my tweaks where I design it. I decide I don't like something about it and I can tweak or change a bit. Like you can see I missed the black right here. So you can double click and make a change. That way you avoid that issue, something like that, and problem is solved. Again, I liked that it met up here, so maybe I want to manipulate that just slightly so it's closer to the points of the black. And for the sake of this video, that's more than good enough. And then I would do, oops, push the wrong button, there we go. The whole oval, which everything is shifted, so don't mind that it's outside of the lines. Everything has shifted a bit as I was playing around. But this color oval, and I do the same thing. I would do the entire design, get one about the proper size. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to manipulate it just a little bit. Drag this over. Drag this over. We want to make sure we're going to the right black portion because we want that white wall effect. So we don't want to go out here. We want the next area of black. Let's get it kind of close. We can always tweak it. Plus, I'm not going to go for perfect because don't need to for this. If you are doing the design or I hadn't finished it yet, obviously it'd be much more crucial. So I'll get it close enough just so we can see it kind of done. There we go. Click a spot over here. Bring this into the black. Don't like that it's above the black there. Perfect. It's inside. We can add a point. Drag it into the black. This one's way outside, so let's bring him over. And just like that, we've kind of completed this line where there's a gap. We've kind of completed this line. We're in the black here. This is just a hair outside. So you might tweak it maybe something like that so we get a clean white wall appearance. And then same thing, it's selected. We can choose our color, which we have right here. Maybe this time I'll do it this way. The eyedropper up here and the gray. And this time, oops, get off my tool there. Oh, it's loading. That's why it's being weird. There we go. Got a lot going on. Plus, it doesn't help that this is a decently detailed image and I have like 6 of them on my page. So then same thing. We're going to drop this one to the back. Whoa, come back. Drop it to the back. There we go. You could take a quick look, make sure everything is as you expected or wanted. Again, we're not going to be cutting this exact one, so it looks good anyway, but it's good enough for this. So once you've got that, I would then group it all together, just so I can't do what it did, where everything is shifted on me. So I would group it, and then you can manipulate it as you need, and you can see now that I did not do the white wall. You can see that I missed a spot. It's white, I forgot that I need to do it. It's super easy, though, on this design, because it goes behind everything. We just want white everywhere. And the oval, drag it out. Almost. Just a hair outside. There we go. Because this is going to go all the way but to the back, so it's going to fill all of this in. And then that one's just in white. So you can do the eyedropper, or I can just click white, since I know that's how I did it. Just like that. And now, if we group it all together and move it over the green, oops, move it over the green, you'll see now that it's as intended. And then from here, for this design, we did the offset, which the group that I asked, I did a poll of which background they liked best. I asked about this green kind of scribble design, which gave kind of an 80s vibe, which everyone was kind of in agreement. It was my least favorite of the 3, but this one did not go over super big. The people I talked to specifically didn't think it was the right era for this design in car, which I kind of agreed with. It's for a 75th birthday. So I went with a more simple white offset. Versus my original design was just kind of to center it something like this, and it was a black shirt, so this black would all blend in. But we're going to do a quick offset, so that way it looks like it does here. Click our full design now that it's all grouped together. I'm going kind of quick through these steps because we've done it lots of times. But our little offset tool here, choose an offset, choose how big we want, which for the size I got here, this is a little bit bigger. So maybe it's about a 0.1. Yeah, it looks like close enough for the sake. I'm not using this one. Apply that. Give it a color, because right now it's transparent. And then you can group your design together. And you'll see now it's got that outline, just like our finished product over here. So that gets us from, I guess, an image to a traced image that we can clean up a little bit. Apply from here all of our colors, however you want it done. I added a dark shadow portion and a highlight portion, but kept the shading and stuff fairly simple. I'm a little on the cartoony side versus realistic, but still all the right colors. The red on the engine, just like we've got here, is red engine. He's got the chrome on the heads, the chrome exhaust, the wheel style, matched up everything. The purple on the back. A lot of the cars have chrome on the headlights. His has purple. So I've made sure to make them purple here and did the same thing. I've got a kind of a standard color. I've got a highlight, and on this one being like on the dark side, I just did black. I kept it real dark. And that gets us to here. So we have this car, which is all grouped, ready to go. And then I did 2 fonts. I wanted the classic to be in more of a classic style font that people think of with like 50s diners and things. So I did this font here. So I did this font, the I'm a, and classic all as 3 separate text boxes. And then I have now grouped these 2 together once I got them lined up the way that I like. And the way that I did that, if you don't have a preferred method, is I just made myself a straight line. I picked the bottom of the font that I liked. If you hold shift, it will snap to your axes. They're in 45 degrees, like we talked about before, so we're just snapping to the X. You can just drag a line across. That way you can line up multiple fonts. So this one's right at the bottom. If anything, this one's just a hair below the bottom of the line. And then the I'm is right on the line. So if I wanted, I could manipulate it just ever so slightly. This classic is just a hair lower than this. So it will probably bug my little OCD a little bit. So I'm going to ungroup this for just a second. I'm going to make them the same. Oh, it did just make them the same. It put them down. I'm going to go one more. I can select this and this. We can group them once again. There we go. And now we're hanging down below the line right about the same. And this is back to being one thing. So we can now take our red line that we just used as reference, because we don't want to risk cutting that, and make it go away. So that's how I lined up my font, even if it ended up not quite being lined up. I've got my images centered to one another. So that's why I built this box. One, it makes it look like the shirt, because my shirt is going to be a black t-shirt. So I've made a black box. You can also do, as we did before, black on your actual workspace here. But I like being able to see the background. Usually I'll have the grid turned on. So when it's black, things get weird sometimes. I'm on the wrong page if I go black. So this to me is a lot harder to see. You lose those little segments in between. They're there, but it's just this little black notch. So you can't really see, at least not on my screen. Maybe it shows up different in the video, but seeing the midpoints and things is much more difficult. So usually I'll have it white because I use the grid more often than not. So I just made a black box over here instead. Lined everything up, and I've centered it with the box. So I've selected the 3 items and the box, which you could drag select as well. And I just centered them here. Oops, not that one, sorry. I centered them here. And that brings them centered to the box. That way all 3 are in line. And then just lined up vertically to my liking. I did it with the... I can't do it unless I'm all selected. If I select all 3, I did it this way first, where it spaces them out. And I don't know if let's see if it'll do it. I liked it that time. I did it last time, and the I'm not old was definitely higher. There was a bigger space here than there was here. So I manipulated them to my liking. because I would rather things look centered and nice than actually be centered. So I got them manually lined up, and this is all set and ready to go. So from here, we're going to print out the car portion, which I think I have opened over here. Yeah, I do. So I have it opened up over here. So you can see I've got my font separated from the car. So I'm going to be printing this on an 8.5 by 11 standard letter sheet of paper. Well, sticker paper. I think my printable HTV. I use the 3G document. Let me grab it here. It's because everyone always likes to ask what I use, and I'm always terrible with names. 3G Jet Opaque. And I always use the dark colored fabrics for my printables. This one is on black, so I have to anyway. But I find that the color just pops a little better, and you eliminate a step of needing transfer tape for your design. So it eliminates a step. It eliminates the risk of grabbing the wrong one and doing like a light sheet on a dark shirt. And then you also get those little bit brighter, poppier colors. So for the sake of all of those, I use this 3G Jet Opaque dark heat transfer paper, which I'll show in a moment. So I've got this set to the size that I want. I went with a 10-inch wide image for the shirt, and then it's just locked, which so as a result for scale made it 4.75 inches tall. So I'll be printing this, and then like usual, I'm going to do this without registration marks. So I'm going to print and then put it back through and cut, and then this will be done cut from vinyl. So I'm going to send this to the printer, and then we'll continue from there. So bear with me. So to do that, we're going to come up to the top here to our print icon like we did in the sticker video. Gonna make sure we look good. We're inside of the margins of the paper, the black line here. I've purposely kept it kind of tight to the side because I could use the other portion of this paper potentially if I wanted to. I don't know what I would use. Usually when I do shirts and things, I use bigger designs to take up most of the page, but I'd rather keep it than scrap it. So pushed it kind of to the left side here. I've also turned the design just a little bit so it's kind of parallel wheel to wheel with the line, just for the sake of consistency. So we can send that to print. I'm going to load up my paper. I'm going to push print, and I'll see you in a second. Right. So our print has finished. It's a little dark, but with the printable transfers, the colors are never quite right on the print. They always pop and change once you heat press them. But real quick, for people who are curious, again, I already said it, but this is the paper I'm using, this 3G Jet Opaque heat transfer paper. And again, this is specifically their dark fabric option. They do have a light fabric option as well, but again, like explained earlier, I don't go that route. Plus, this is on black, so it wouldn't work anyway. I've got my machine on, ready to go. I've got my mat ready to go. And like we did in the sticker video, we need to make sure we orient my paper in the same way on my mat as it is here. And so we'll see that the rear end of the car is in the top left with our paper in the top left of the mat. So we want to make sure we get it the same way. Let me set you down here so I can do exactly that. We want the rear end of the car towards the top, and we want our paper as close to perfect because we're doing this without registration marks and we don't want any miscuts and have to do this again. The paper is not super expensive. It's about $1 a sheet, so I prefer not to waste $1. But if it goes wrong, it's not the end of the world, but obviously we don't want to do that. So take just the extra second that you need, make sure it's lined up nicely. And it's real close, but I'm going to get it just a little bit better. Let's pivot that off so we can get it as perfect as possible. Let's see if I like that look better. That looks good to me. Okay, I had people ask last time, so let's show it this time. So that was apparently not clear enough. So the way this is done is the paper is right on that gray edge. You can see below the 11-inch mark, there's the line. Ignore all the dust, hair, and paper fibers on it. I've had this mat a while now, but it's right along that gray line all the way up right to the corner there, and then the same right across the top, and it continues off beyond the paper. So it should be right on that gray line all the way around the perimeter, just like it is here on the screen. With that, we can load up our document into the machine. Get this lined up here. Make sure you've got your roller here on the outside piece, because we're going with a mat this time around. I do a lot of vinyl off of rolls, so I have to make sure that's set. That loaded as such. It doesn't seem to ultimately matter, but I do like to usually lift this up a little bit. So you can either just pull out your roll holder, and then it doesn't fall quite as far. There's a little bit of a lift on it. Or if you've got a little box or a book or something of a reasonable height. I have this little box from some heat transfer vinyl I purchased. I tend to use this just so it has a little bit of support as it goes in flat into the machine. Again, I've heard it helps with print and cut when you use registration marks. So it's not technically, I haven't found that it's needed for this. I like that extra little security to know it's going in smooth and straight without any real issues. And you can always move this during cutting if you need, or if you've got a second one or a bigger book or something, you could spread them out and make sure that the front's lifted up and everything's nice and level if you really want. I've done it many times with no support at all, and again had no issues, but it makes me feel a little better knowing that it's supported going into the machine. So we've got it all lined up here. We're going to go back over to the software. We've got it all lined up, ready to go. So I'm not going to switch back to the computer record for just this quick second. So let's go to send. You can see here, I've got it set. So just our offset is set up to cut. And you can see I just got it inside the page. That was on purpose. On all the sides there. So you got it lined up. If yours does not look like this, you can come over on the side here and manipulate. I've got it set to cut edge, which works because, again, we grouped all of this together. The car, all of its pieces, and the offsets. This is all one sort of image, if you will. So we choose cut edge, and it's done exactly that. It's put our cut line right on the edge of our design, which is exactly what we want going into the machine here. Excuse me. That way we get, just like we had it drawn out here, our offset on our car. My focus is going crazy. So we're going to send this to the machine. I'm going to go in here and select my preset for our project. So I'm going to switch this from vinyl gloss down to the bottom of my list. I already have this in my system right here, 3G Jet Opaque transfers, because I found settings that work for me and I just keep using them. So for mine personally, I'm using a blade depth of 2. I'm at force 8, a single pass, and then I change my speed based on the complexity of the project. This one being a fairly simple line, I'm going to speed this up from the 3. The last design I did was quite complicated compared to this. We'll call it 6. I do 5 and 6 the most. And then I'll often turn on this overcut feature here, a little checkbox. But this one doesn't have any sharp turns, so it won't do anything on or off. So with that, we can go down to the bottom and we can send it. And that's going to take it into our cutter here and cut out our design. We'll give that just a second. This will be fast enough. We'll let it go. You can watch it do its thing. Perfect. Now I always, just to double check, I'll make sure that it's cut through, which it just barely made it through. So I might actually go one more pass on that. Let me push this back on, which is why we don't take it off of our mat. That way it's still in the exact same position. Usually that cuts all the way through. This time it did not. So I might be getting slightly dull finally. This is the original blade I've been using the entire time. I'm going to send it one more time, the exact same settings. It's just a single pass. And this should cut all the way through now. You don't need to cut all the way through because it is a page on a backing, but I've had better luck personally removing the whole thing. I don't get any snags on the image that way. Hopefully you can hear me over all that noise. Okay, we've got good cut through. There we go. Now I'm getting a good edge there. Do one more spot just to make sure. I'm not trying to go crazy. I just want to make sure I've got a good edge. All right, that looks pretty good. So I can eject that out. Pop that off of there. Don't want to use my mat is. That came off super easy. All right. And then this one here. If it will cooperate, we'll get that removed. All right, so I did a fun cutaway there. I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. I, for some reason, got a bad one. I have not had this before, but it would not peel the backing off. And so you can see most of it. I'm trying to get a spot in the light where you can see it. Most of it, it's peeled off and looks pretty smooth, but the paper was like acting like it was wet, and it's shredded on the back. So I ended up with this pile of scraps. Usually it peels off in basically one piece. So this one is garbage. I can't use this one, unfortunately. So while I was off camera, I printed another one. Exactly the same process, lined it up exactly the same way. I just didn't want you to have to watch it a second time. I also used my paper cutter here and cut off that excess scrap like I had talked about earlier. Otherwise, this is exactly where it was when I left you just a moment ago. So, my new phone is too heavy for this little tripod. I got this one started, and this one seems to be off to a better start. I just got the edge, where am I? Got the edge started here, and this one is peeling away as I'm used to. I don't know what was wrong with the last one. So yeah, this one seems, at least so far, to be going as planned. Let's get this guy peeled off here. A little bit of that weird paperness right here again. But let's go the other way and see if we can get around it. I've done, I don't know, probably only a dozen or so of these so far, but they've all been great up to this point. Sorry, I'm not in the frame. I'm focused on what I'm doing, not what's in the screen, unfortunately. I need to be doing both. So peel this guy back. See if going the other way solves the weird papery issue. And it did, yes. So yeah, it started to do that weird fuzz where it lifted the like papery portion of the backing right here. So it got snagged on this little piece. I went around the other way and it solved the problem. So yeah, the other one, the whole thing did this. And it got became confetti instead of a normal sheet. So yeah, I'm not sure what was wrong with that one, but apparently I got a defect. So unfortunately I did have to waste one, which is unfortunate. So this one is now garbage. But the good news is we now have a nice print. It's got a nice clean back as we want. This is exactly as it should be. And this is not sticky, so I can just set it on my desk for now. I dropped it on the floor. That's all set to go. And to clarify, since I didn't say anything, we saw it on screen, but the dark transfers do not get mirrored. So just a heads up on that. We will mirror if you were printing text on standard HTV, which we will be doing here shortly. But the car, to get it the way we want it, or any image on at least this product, it's very clear on the directions. You do not flip it. This gets set on the shirt just as it is here on the desk. And then it's pressed to the garment. So just want to make sure that was clear. We are not mirroring the image printed exactly as you want it. Let me switch back over to the computer now so we're not filming the computer screen. And we'll go through the text portion of the project. All right, we made it through part 1. Thanks for watching the video with me. Hope you learned something new in this first half. The second half of the video, we will be cutting our HTV for our text, and then doing the heat pressing for both our transferred image as well as the text. And then we'll do a overview, kind of looking at the shirt as a completed project. And this one went out to the friend of mine that I made it for this past weekend for his 75th birthday, and it was a big hit. That he loved it, as did basically everyone else that showed up. Everyone kept asking him to hold it up so they could take pictures and things. It went over very well. So you get to look forward to that. I'll be releasing part 2 here realistically in the next few hours. If something keeps me from doing that, hopefully no more than 24 hours from now, part 2 will be available and we will have the shirt finished up. Thanks again to everyone who has liked and subscribed to my videos and my channel. I appreciate it very much, and hopefully I can continue to help you improve with your machine and become overall more comfortable. Until next time, happy crafting, and we'll see you again.